That sucks. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Sean Carlson. I am Blackjack 98 Enterprises. Today's date is Monday, March 31st at roughly 3 p.m. The project that you see behind me is my next one. It is a Stihl blower. It will be my first Stihl blower. The other ones have been a home light and a weed eater, but this one here we will take a look at. So let me flip my camera around. This is a Stihl BG86c. I'm going to assume that says 86. This thing is in pretty rough condition. I can't even find the other identification marks that say anything else about it, not even on the bottom. I can't even read that too clearly. So, thanks to Google Lens, I find out that this is a BG86c. So therefore, that is what we are going to... Oh, well, what do you know? It says right there. Ha 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 ha! Right on. Awesome. Cool. Now we know 100% for sure. As you can tell, it's missing a lever right here, which regulates the throttle. And it's also missing a cover and a fuel filter for right here. Customer gave it to me in the current condition that you see it now. If there's anything that I know about blowers, it is that they were actual weed whacker engines. A blower is a weed whacker, but is working sideways. In which case, if this was a weed whacker, this would be the end. It would be the shaft would be out there, and then the handle for the weed whacker would be right here. This is in the right place. So yeah, this is technically a weed whacker engine. So we're gonna get our tools here, and it's gonna be the same as the weed whackers that we've done before. We're gonna have a T. What T is this? I think it's a T something or other. It'll tell me here. T27. T27 for these nuts and bolts, and we have a 5/16 for those. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take off this cover first. And if anything is like the last blower, I would have to take off this, then separate these two components right here, and then that will expose the engine. So what we're going to do is we're just going to get ourselves set up. So here we go. Okay, so I've got these loose. I'm just about to take them off. What I want to let everybody know is that whenever you're taking off these screws or bolts, do not use a friggin' impact drill or a drill of any sort. If the screw or bolt is not going to come off, you're seriously going to strip the threads or the internal threads of whatever it is that you are taking off. Okay, and be very mindful that whenever you are taking anything off, whether it's a plastic component, that there is different types of bolts and sizes for the machine that you're using. Not all nuts and bolts are the same. Now, this cover comes off. Okay, so this is off. There's only 3 of them. Those 3 right there. Take a picture of those, make a mental note of them, whatever. But let's look at the condition of this. See that string? That string needs to be replaced. And yeah, well, Frank, look at it. It's not even on there properly. Okay, so we got it's heavily worn, it's cracked. Son of a bitch, it's definitely got to be clean. So we got to replace the strings. So that's one project that we will do. Be careful of the size of these. They look similar, but other nuts and bolts throughout the machine are longer or shorter. Okay, so, oh, well, what do you know? It was attached to the engine directly, which means it is a fine thread. All fine thread screws are bolts that are attached to the engine. Now, if it was two plastic components like this one here. This one here is most likely going to be a coarse thread, and that is exactly what I'm going to take out right now, just to show you guys the difference. Anytime the two plastic components are being fastened together, it will be with a coarse screw, never fine thread screw. You cannot put a fine thread bolt in place of a screw because the threads will not work. Okay, now, see that? That's a screw. That's a fine thread. Now let's look at the difference. You see the difference? Okay, this one are always going to be used to fasten two plastic pieces together. One of the things that I dislike about certain videos is watching somebody twist out a screw or a bolt like you see me doing here. That has to be the most ridiculous thing that you will see. So that is why I'm going to stop right now, and I'm just going to take these out and show you after what the screws look like and how it came out. Okay, so we flipped it around and we got all those screws that were out of there. This is where they are. They're all the same size. Okay, and this just comes off like that. You can just pull it right off. So let's put it to a side here. Now let's look at it. We're looking at the condition of it, looking for any missing parts, breaks, cracks, or anything like that. And there's nothing. This just needs to be cleaned. Now we have access to the fan. Now when we flip it over, we have the engine. Okay, from my previous experience of blowers, to get this unfastened from this part here, the housing, there's bolts behind this fan, and you gotta take that out. So take a picture of that and use this wrench, a 1/2 inch wrench, and twist that out. You're gonna have to hold the blades carefully while you twist this out. Nut comes out, washer comes out, blade comes out, then you expose the 4 screws or 4 bolts that are holding that engine in. Okay, I just fought with this a little bit, and that's just because the threads on this are reversed. It's righty-loosey, lefty-tighty, okay? And look at the threads on here. If you can see them for yourself. If you go counterclockwise, you're tightening it up. If you go clockwise, you're loosening it, okay? So, having said that, that nut goes into there. This fan blade can come off. That washer, I have this feeling that there will be a keyway type deal on the fan. Look at the washer, and then the fan comes off. It doesn't come off as easily as other blades that I have seen come off. They have a keyway. This one sort of threads itself off, and yeah. Looking at it, there's no missing fins. If this was missing fins, it would vibrate like hell. Look at this. So yeah, there is no keyway on this part here, but you do have access to 3 holes here which are holding the engine in. Okay, so let's look at this. I'm gonna wait for that garbage truck to get lost before I can start talking clearly over this. Alright, what I did was I went and took those 2 nuts off the air filter housing, so now this can be removed. This comes off as a 1 unit, and what that tells me is there's no other tubing connected to it like sometimes there is on certain Stihl products. You will have a tube connected to this, and that will go directly to the gas tank. As you can tell, this is heavily soiled. The mouth of the intake for the carburetor is clean, but everything around it is like heavily gross, so that'll have to be cleaned out. Now we're going to put those 2 nuts into there, and then we're going to look at the carburetor, and that is absolutely disgusting. So this needs to be heavily cleaned out a lot. I can see that there's two fuel lines. One is right there, one is right there. I do not know what this is, but if I was to take a very good guess, this would be the gas tank inlet valve to let the air in to create that, to reduce the vacuum so the fuel can go down. So this will have to be cleaned out. This gunk that's on there that you see right there will have to be cleaned out. Now that I took those two nuts off, this can probably be loosened, but it's held together by that throttle cable, which is right there. You see when you hit this trigger, this is the throttle lever, and it hits the throttle like you see right there. Okay, slow. We're gonna have to take this line off if we can once we get this carburetor loose. And I'm just wondering if I can get this loose. It might be just like stuck on there because of the freaking crap. But you know what? We're just gonna look at that later. But we will look at the condition of this flywheel. I took out the spark plug and I went and rammed that in there just to get that stupid nut off there because it was jammed tight. So what we'll do is we'll just remove these nuts. Screws, bolts I mean. And by the way, these three were not on there tight, which tells me that somebody had this apart previously. Anytime that you take off a nut or a bolt and it does not snap when you loosen it, that means it was taken off previously, and the person that took it apart did not put Loctite on the threads to ensure that it would not come loose. That is the case in this case. I just loosened these off a few minutes ago just so I wouldn't have to struggle with it on camera, and I was surprised to find out that there was no struggle at all. Okay, so making mental note of these three screws. They are the same size. They are connected to the engine. So technically now, this engine should come loose. And we're going to put it on its side. We're going to lift it. Can we lift it? Yes, we can. It's coming loose, loose. Is there anything else that is holding it together other than that throttle? Oh, the wiring. Okay, we can take apart the wiring. So yeah, what we'll do is the wiring needs to come off. Take a mental picture of these wiring. Take a picture. Make sure that you know which one goes where. No, they are not the same. Those two blades, this one is wider than this one, so therefore this one will not fit onto that one. But they cannot be interchanged when you do your wiring. They are very different. So, alright, so what I had to do was I went and disconnected the wiring. I disconnected the fuel lines, and now this is nice and loose. However, you see that throttle cable right there? That throttle cable is the only thing that this thing is connected to, and it's having a hard time getting this off. So that's the only thing that you need to do is fight with that throttle cable. If that happens, you might need to take that part off at the handle there with those two screws. Okay, engine is now free and clear. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at it completely. So we don't know if there's a problem with the magneto, but we have a way of checking that. We can check that. Okay, as I was saying, we're going to test the magneto later. This is a complete mess. And that carburetor can come loose now, as you can tell right there. Just like that. And looking at that mouth, it's clean. I do not know. I cannot identify anything. There's like, ugh. I'm going to put that, right this side. We will take this part off. And the muffler. And we'll pull this out. And as I just found out, the on-off switch is right there, which when you put the handle back like that, this little gizmo right here is what hits that on-off switch up and down, and that was missing. So I gotta find that part or make that part somehow or order it or whatever. But we will use our multimeter to test the on-off switch here, which is only 2 leads. We'll take these 2 lines out and we'll clean those out, and we'll find out which one goes to the fuel filter, and we'll clean that out. We'll take the gas tank right off because it looks like we can. We'll clean this entire thing out with soap and water, and including inside the gas tank. We might even have to replace the fuel filter. So for now, what we're going to do is find out if this can come off with the screw. I got to clean that off. Okay, so we can take this off now once those 3 are loose. That might be a little bit stuck on there, which is good because it's supposed to be an airtight seal anyways. Those 3 are the same T27s. And they are right here. See that? Okay, so these can be put back right into where they came from. So that way we don't lose them. This is the perfect way not to lose your screws, unless you want to clean them and put them into the container there. This is how I do it. Okay, this can actually go into the container here. The muffler is taken out from the other side. There was nothing else between the engine and the muffler, just this. Sometimes there is a gasket here, but there looks like there's kind of one right there. It has to be heat resistant, and the way that I'm going to clean this one is Easy Off Oven Cleaner. And the 2 bolts are right there. You'll distinguish these ones very easily because they're heavily rusted, heavily corroded, exposed to heat. So they can go into there too. Next we have the magneto. The magneto, is that a T27? Yes, it is. Okay, let's look at this first. The magneto hooks up directly to the boot for the spark plug, and looks like it's fine. We're gonna test this when we get everything back together to test for spark. We're going to test the spark plug before we test the magneto, and the way that we do that is I have a machine that tests spark plugs. So we're going to find that out if it works. And right now we're just going to take this off with those 2 screws right there. And be mindful that screw is holding in this part here, which attaches to the wiring. Okay? There is a lot that the magneto can be hooked up to, so be mindful of that and take pictures. Okay, so the center nut comes out, and I forgot to tell you which size it is. I think, was it this one here? Was it this one here? Yep, this one here. It's a 1/2-inch nut. Okay, there you go. Use a 1/2-inch socket to take this out. Not all flywheels are the same, especially the newer ones. Okay. Some flywheels have a built-in keyway, and that means you might have to replace the entire son of a bitchin' flywheel if there is not a separate keyway, and that is very annoying. This one is on there really stuck, which exactly is supposed to be. So let me put my phone down. The flywheel is now off. So let's look at it. Oh yeah. You see that's where the keyway is. And that keyway is built right into the flywheel. If you shear that keyway, you have to replace the entire son of a bitchin' thing. And that fits right onto here, that part right there. That slot. That's the timing part for the crank. Now I want to let everybody know something. When you go to put this back into here, you can tighten that nut that's on there really tight, but take some type of glue or epoxy or whatever and smear it around that keyway there and around the entire area with a Q-tip, and then put it on there correctly, and then put the nut on there and then tighten it. What that goop that you're going to put in there is going to do is going to ensure it's going to secure the flywheel to that area, because now that this is loose, that you put this on there loose, it's not on their factory set. You get that goop is going to help secure this onto this part here. And if at all you shear that keyway, you can in fact take a file and file it out and put in a separate keyway. I have done that before, and I know how to do it again with a micro file set. So that's enough of that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to look at the cylinder. So this is okay. Darn it! I just took everything apart that I needed to spin this. Okay, this is the muffler side. The reason why this is the muffler side is because you can see the top of the piston. You can only see the top of the piston through the muffler side. So let's spin it. The walls of that piston look really good. When I turn the crank, it looks awesome. So there's nothing on this side that tells me that the piston is scored, which means the cylinder is not scored. Now we're going to do the same thing on the other side. We're going to look through the carburetor side. On the carburetor side, you cannot see the top of the piston, only the bottom. And let me get that nut again. Let me get that nut again. Let me put it back on here. Oh yeah, don't forget that those nuts on both sides, this came from this side, and it's a regular nut. It does not fit onto this one because this one's reversed. As you can tell. See that? It's reversed. Aha! I'm trying to spin this thing and I can't. Oh yeah, here we go. You can see the bottom of the piston, which means sometimes you can see the walls of the cylinder. And when might not be able to see it on the camera, but I can see it on my side. And when I see those three holes, there's no lines on the piston, which means we have a good piston, which means we also have a good cylinder. And I can see the piston ring there too. It's in good condition. So therefore, having said that, we don't need to take this apart completely, but a lot of you might want to know how we could. So let's look at that. These three screws right there, these three bolts, there, there, and there, are what hold in this part to here. And then to get the cylinder head off, you see that screw right there? It's on the bottom. From there, there, and there, and there. So 3 pieces to get this engine completely apart so you can access the piston. Now, I don't need to do that because I just looked at it through those both holes, and I made the judgment for myself that this is a good working engine, and we just need to clean it up and get that gunk off there. And that's what we're going to do. And we're going to clean this up too. We're going to clean all of this with a pail of water. It's going to get soaked in Easy Off Oven Cleaner, and all those parts in there are going to get cleaned too. We have now reached the parts where we're going to clean everything with a pail of water, and you're going to watch me do it. All right. Everything is nice and sparkly clean, washed with laundry soap and water. And as you can tell, they're just a lot cleaner than they were when we seen it on the video. I might not have been able to get in all the tight spots with the dirt in there, but they definitely are cleaner and they're not full of gunk like the carburetor. You know what, let's look at the carburetor before we get too excited. This is an original carburetor. This was made by Zama in the Philippines. What? And there's the numbers right there. Can you see them? Okay, you may not be able to see them, but you know what? The customer that I'm doing this for gave me a box with another carburetor in it. He wanted to replace the carburetor, but he didn't know how. He didn't have the time for it, so he ordered this, and this one looks just the same. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the one that he went and bought, but we're going to take this apart so I can show you guys what it looks like inside. Now before I do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just put these aside and we're going to compare these two. So flip them aside, flip them aside. Are they both the same in this respect? Yes, they both look the same. Let's turn them this way. They look the same there, yes. Let's turn them this way. Do they look the same there? Yes, they do. Let's flip them over. Oh, you know what? There's no writings on this one. Ooh, there's no markings. That's the only thing with this one here. You know what? Be very careful when you're using non-brand name carburetors because they might not operate the same as a brand carburetor. The parts inside are the same, but how you tune them up with the carburetor jets might not be the same. So we're going to use this anyways. We're not even going to take this apart. We're just going to use it. But we will tear this one apart just so you can see what the internal components look like and how they go together. Okay? And let's look at the engine housing now. The engine block. As you can see, it's a lot clearer. The 4 bolts to get that cylinder head are a lot more clearer right there. You have to take these 3 out first, then you can take out those 4, and then this comes off, then this comes off, then them comes off, and then you have access to the cylinder and the crank. Okay, and as you can tell, see that red stuff? That's a sealant between the crank, the bottom of the crank to the top of the cylinder head. That creates an airtight seal so that way this can work properly. Okay, so after having said that, we know this is a good. Everything here is good, and this is fine. Everything is now drying up, and we can now start putting it together, except for the fact that when it comes time to mess around with the fuel tank like this, we are going to analyze this just a little bit further to find out which one connects to the fuel tank by the fuel filter. One's the return, one's the fuel filter. We're going to look into that in more detail. And yeah, right now I'm just going to move on. Alright, so now we came to the time where we're going to check the spark plug. And I told you that I had a machine to do that. And that is this thing here. You put the spark plug directly into there, like that. Close the lid. And you turn this according to the revolutions per minute. So right now it's in off. Click it on, the light comes on. And then what you can do is you set it to, let's say, 2000, and you should see some sparkage happening. And you do. Look at that. So now we know we have a good spark plug. Let's turn it up all the way to 6000. Now let's look at it. Same thing. Spark. So, we know we have a good spark plug. We can turn it off. Now what we're going to do is we're going to see if we have a good magneto. Okay? The way that we do that is we put the spark plug back into the boot. Back into the boot. Just like that. Let it click. Let it click into place. Okay. Then we're going to turn it with a drill on that nut, and we're going to see if there is spark. Okay. So, here we go. Not seeing anything. That is not a good thing either. So let's try this. Let me get that right in there though. Here, hold on. Okay, we're gonna do this one more time. Oh my gosh. Okay, so we do not have a good magneto. That is now a huge problem because now I gotta freaking order this part. Gosh. Okay, so you know what? Okay, so what I can do is we can now look at the carburetor. Now that we know that we do not have, well, have to replace this, let the customer know that. These are not cheap, by the way. Anyways, yep, we're going to look at the carburetor now. Okay, so I find out the reason why there was barely any connection was because this part here just slips right off. There was no connection between this part and this part here. Now, once I went and forcefully went and jammed this into here, then we got a spark. So this part right here is the problem. Now if I was to jam this like right into there, like force it right into there, and then we're going to try this again, you'll see something similar to a spark. Here, hold on. Okay. All right. There was a spark when I did it before, but I can't do two things with one hand. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to adjust this in a way that there makes a connection with that. And then we'll see that spark. Okay, so here's the old ignition coil. What I had went and done is I had went and ordered a new one. So this is pretty much the next day. I went and put the order in last night. So while I am waiting for a new ignition coil, we're going to work on the rewind. And when you pull the rewind, when we look at it, it's kind of loose right here. It's not really supposed to be loose. It should be held tight in there. And the string looks kind of old. You see that? Old string? Okay, so when we pull the rewind, this is what it looks like. See those two black points that come out? At this point, we start to engage the coil, the rewind coil, and then we pull it, and it gets harder, and then the rewind coil coils it back up. Those 2 points push on the inside of the circle on these 6 points here. They push on them, and they make this entire thing spin. Okay, so that's how the rewind works. The way that we're going to take this out is we're going to remove that wire piece, then the washer that you see, and then these two things can just pop right out. Some of you might be wondering, how exactly do you grab this without it going boing? Okay, so needle nose pliers. There's a point that I can see, which is right there, where I can stick one end of my pliers in and then grab it and then pinch it, and then I can remove it without it going boing on me. Just like that. The bottom part is kind of a bit stuck, which is expected. Okay, I gotta put my phone down. Okay, there we go. So, now we can just put this down right there. We'll get this out of the way. You put this down, you put your hand on it flat, and then you let it go. And then you just slowly release it. And just like that, you have your rewind coil where you can now clean it up. Do not break this end. Be very careful with this entire thing. Okay, sometimes these break like right in the middle and you got to redo it again. That's not a big deal. So we're just going to clean this up. We're going to clean this up and this up too. And look at this a little bit more, and yeah, we're just gonna replace the string. But this we'll put I'm gonna think 3 feet of line from this onto the handle. Okay, and that'll be that. Okay, so putting this all together was not a big deal, but now we've reached a point where we've got the handle in, and this part here you might not recognize because that just came out as I was putting in the string. So, having said that, let's look at it. That spring goes over this plastic piece. On either side of this spring, as you can see, there is a Stihl washer. There's one right there, and there's one right there. So, they go into the handle like this, and it goes right in there. I'm assuming that the knot right here puts pressure on that part, which creates sort of a cushion when you're jerking on it. Okay, so we're gonna put a double knot on this, and then we're gonna use this thing here to fry this end so it melts, and then we're gonna put tension into the line here, and I'm gonna show you guys how to do that as soon as I get this back on. Okay, so here we go. We got to put some tension into this. And the way that we do that is we grab it right here, we just pinch it up, and then while holding this part of the string, we go around and around and around, let's say 3 times. We're gonna do it 3 times. You're gonna watch me do it. And some of these spools, there is a hole. So here we go, going around like this. See that? Use the hole if there is one. That's 1 rotation. We're going to do another one. That's 2 rotations. And we're going to do another one. That's 3 rotations. Now we're going to hold it right here with our left hand. And we're going to look at this. See that? Now we're going to pull this, the handle, back out like that. And then we're going to with our left hand, we're going to slowly release it. And then we're going to look at it. Okay, so here's what it looks like on the outside. Okay, when we pull it, it's got tension in there. So that was 3 pulls, 3 rewinds. And when we look at this, it's acting the way that it's supposed to be. So we got the brand spanking new string in, and we got 3 rotations of tension onto it. And you know what? This is now good to go. Back into the weed whacker. And that's how you put the rewind in. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to look at the gas tank. We need to know which one of these hooks up to the fuel filter and which one of these is the return. I've never seen a connection like this before. Usually they go through two separate holes on other ones that I've worked on, but because this one is a Stihl, it's different. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove these two hoses. I'll just pull them right out. Frick. Okay, so once those come out, we find out that there's a stop right there. So that little knob, so that what that tells me is that this is going to come straight out. Like, we're going to grab it and then pull it out. And then there's going to be a fuel filter in there, and we're going to see which one of these is hooked up. So that's what I'm going to work on right now. Okay, we got it out. And we're going to take out this little ring here. This is the seal between this part and the gas, so that way gas doesn't leak. We're going to clean that out and around the mouth here. And we're going to flush the inside of the gas tank too. So that is now good to go. That's the air relief valve for the gas tank, so it can push the gas down into the carburetor. Now this is what we're looking at. Okay, so one of these, okay, this one here is the return. Oh, you know what, let's get our carburetor out. So, well, what do you know? It's one of these ones here, okay. Oh, and there's just a little bit of fuel in there. So, you know, I'm just going to push that fuel down, and you're going to see out which one of these is going to leave. When I push down, that means you're pushing the fuel out of the carburetor. So here we go. That one there. This is the one that you just seen the fuel came out. So therefore, this is the return. So when the gas sucks into this side and it gets released out of this side from the carburetor. So when you push it down, you're pushing the gas out of the carburetor, you're returning it. When you let go of the primer bulb, you're sucking the gas in. You're pushing gas out, sucking gas in. Pushing gas out, sucking gas in. You're sucking at the release of the primer bulb, sucks the gas from the gas tank into the carburetor. Okay, that's what happens. So now we know this hooks up to the return. Just got that figured out. And the return is this one here. And if you look at it, it goes into that portion right there, and this is connected to this fuel filter. If I was to take off this hose, we could see that just a little bit more clearly. So let's try that. Okay, so we got it released, and this is what it looks like. Okay, we can clean out that fuel filter by just blowing into here and then blowing out the air from it, and then that's not a big deal. That part was connected to this. Okay, so this is the part that we're looking at. So let's look underneath. So this is what the fuel hose was connected to, and as you can tell, it's connected to right here. This is where the fuel hooks up to the gas tank. And this part here, oh, this here is the return. As you can tell, there's a hole right there. Okay, so now that we have all this figured out, we can now clean everything up and put it back together. Okay, so now we're going to look at the carburetor, and I've got a stand set up. So let's just look at it before we take it apart. We're not going to use this one, but we are going to use the brand new one that we were talking about. This one has numbers on it. And this one says S261E, and then 4241/16C, and then 746A. So those numbers are crucial when you go to order a carburetor exactly like this one. I highly recommend that you use original parts, original carburetors, when you go to replace. all carburetors, when you're working on them, they need to be airtight. So that way there's no leaks of any sort. If you find that there's air bubbles in your primer bulb, that is an indication that there's air leaks. Okay, this can be all cleaned out and taken apart. This here part is widely available online and you can replace them. Make sure that when you take apart a carburetor, you have the parts diagram to assist you with how exactly they are supposed to go back together. In this case, what you're seeing me do is you're taking off the diaphragm pump. So, after having taken this off, okay, when you're going to put something like this back together, you need to use cement, rubber cement or contact cement. You put it on the outer edge here, on this part here, and then put them together so that way there's an airtight seal. Okay, so on the top here is the diaphragm pump. On the bottom, which is the one that's touching this, is the actual gasket. So this is actually two parts. And they are fused together as one because they're supposed to be tight together to begin with. There's two different parts. And you see that? So in your new carburetor kit, this is how you'll put it on. You'll put this one on first, glue it together, and then this one on as well. Okay? And then you put this on with this. So after that is done, taken apart, then there's a small screw right there which you can take out to take out that right there. So that's a different head that I have. We'll get to that later. Then comes this part. This is an original carburetor because it's got the manufacturer's name and the company that made it. Okay, same thing again. Let's look at the bottom. The pump part, the plastic part. Ooh, there's a lot of gunk in there, hey? Look at that. Gunk. Okay, so this plastic part presses against this surface here, and that comes off. And then this gasket part presses against that. And see that? This gasket part might be hard to take off because it's supposed to be glued onto there. Some are and some are not. This one is old and wet and corroded. Yep. I'm just using my nail to take it off carefully. But if you have a carb kit that is ready to replace this, then go ahead and shred this one. Otherwise, be careful not to break it. I'm not necessarily trying to be careful here, but I can tell that it had been glued on here previously, which is very good. So, this is what the carb kit looks like for this one here. Okay, as you can tell, there's a lot of gas that's been sitting in here, so that's going to be cleaned out. This part right there is a small screen that has to come out too. Okay, and that well. Now these two are the jets. You adjust these when you do your carburetor speed settings. So I'm going to take one out. And before you take them out, you want to turn them in to see how far in they go and count the number of turns, so that way when you go to put them back, they're going to be at the same setting that they were before. So in this case, it's a Phillips head. So we're going to go in quarter, half, 3/4. This one is 3/4 in. Oh, and it's just because of that stupid limiter cap. Okay, you gotta take this limiter cap off if you want to count that properly. And the way you take that limiter cap off is to use a flathead screwdriver. You just pry it off. Let me put this on pause. Okay, so I got the limiter caps off. So we're gonna count this again. So let's see here. We counted. So half, a quarter. So a quarter, half, 3/4. Oh yeah, it is stuck in there at 3/4 in. So now we know this one can come out and go back in at 3/4. This one here, we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to count it a quarter, half, 3/4, 1. 1 1/4. Ooh, 1 1/2. Nope, just a little shy of 1 1/2. So between 1 1/4 and 1 1/2. Okay, now these can come out. These two jet pins are not the same, and I'm going to show you the differences. They differ by manufacturers, whether it's a Stihl, Echo, weedeater, or Poulon. There's different sizes, different diameters, different thread pitches, different lengths. So, let's look at them. Okay, I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but this one here is different threads than this one. So let's look at it. I don't know if you can see it, but yeah, this one here has coarser threads than this one. So they can never be put into the same hole. And one is longer than the other. The coarse head is longer than this one. So you need to pay attention to these when you put them together. Now, just in case you got them mixed up and now you're like, oh my gosh, which one goes in where? Instead of trying to force it in and trying to see if the threads fit, you can use a toothpick. Let me get a toothpick. Here's a toothpick. So all you need to do is take your toothpick and put it in. And then you, oh, well, this one's a little too big, but the idea is you put your toothpick all the way in and then you mark it. And then you compare it to the other side and see if it goes in all the way or it doesn't go in all the way. Your toothpick will determine the depth as to which it will go in, and then you compare it with the two holes. Okay? That is how I do it. That is how you should do it to find the length. So, after having said that, now everything can be cleaned. And this is our choke. And this is our choke, and this is our throttle. Our throttle releases the choke after you hit it with the gas. See that? These are butterfly valves, by the way. The one that I just worked on, which was the Stihl blower, or the Stihl weed whacker, this is a barrel style, so not all carburetors the same or for each engine. But this, if I remember correctly, this was a T8 type head. You take this out, and then this part here can come out, and then fuel, and then you can spray into there. This is the direct access to the screen, which is right here. You just need to take that out with the something. So there it is. There's the screen. See, this screen can be clogged up with a lot of gunk, and that's usually the case with most carburetors, the screen here. So replace that with a clean kit, and then scrape all this gunk off of here. Use anything other than metal, like the wood that you see me here. Scrape this surface nice and clean. Use WD-40 and a red hose to go. Spray in here, spray here, spray here, spray in all the little holes, so that way you can see where the blockage is, and including these holes here, 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 and there. Every hole that you spray should be free, okay? And these surfaces need to be nice and cleaned. Now, because I got this one apart, we're going to use the brand new one, and I will show you how it should look when you're testing it for drinking, okay? So let me put this on pause. Okay, so this is a drinking test, which should be done on all carburetors. Now, this get up that I have, I use this a lot. So, in here, this is our imitation gas tank. We have a return, which is up there, and our fuel filter, which is right here. Okay, and that there is, like, of course, gas. So the fuel filter one is hooked up right here, and it goes, because this tube is a little too small for this opening, I went and had Mickey Moused it just so it can fit. And then the return, as we had just found on the other one, this goes back into the gas tank, which is right there. Okay, so you're gonna watch happen when I press down the primer bulb. Okay, here we go. When we press down, we're pushing out the gas into the gas tank. When we release it, it should be sucking up. Down, up, down, up. And yes, it is working. It is working. Now remember, I said if there's any air leaks in the carburetor, it will not function properly. And when you rebuild it, it's going to take like 20 to 30 pumps before you get this working properly the way that it's supposed to be. And that might be the case here because of the tubing that I'm using. There's probably an air leak here or right here. That will happen. Okay, here, let me put this on pause. Okay, because of the fact that this connection here is a lot bigger than the tubing that I usually normally use, I can't really get a good thing happening here. So I'm just going to have to leave it. But it does work exactly like this. Okay, so this is how you test if your carburetor is drinking properly. And the only reason why this is not working right now in the video is because there's an air leak right at this connection. And that's it. Otherwise, it would normally be flowing. So that's it for the carburetor. Okay, so I just had a blonde moment. You remember how I was saying that the fuel comes from this side? I completely overlooked that this one down here. It's the same on the brand new one too. This is where the fuel goes in and it comes out this side. I was wondering what the hell this does. And I think it's just there for whatever reason. So now that we got this hooked up, this is hooked up to the fuel filter. When I press the primer bulb, you should see it start to fuel flow. So here we go. There we go. See that? It's coming up. Yes, it's working. It's working like it's supposed to. It's going to fill up the primer bulb now. There we go. See that? Yes. And then you're going to press it like pretty much a million times before it starts to flow out. And it goes back into the fuel tank. That's how it's supposed to work. This one there goes to the fuel filter. This one's the return. And it needs to have an airtight seal so that way it works properly. I just rebuilt this one actually. And you can tell that there's a bit of a problem with it. So not all carburetors, after they've been rebuilt, will work efficiently. This one is clearly not doing that. So therefore this carburetor would be no good. So what we're going to do is we're going to hook it up to the brand new one. Okay, so the brand new one is hooked up now. We're going to watch. It should work a lot better. There we go. See that? It's coming. Yes. Yes. Okay. So now we can see that our carburetor is drinking like it's supposed to. This is what I refer to as drinking. Okay. Okay, so this one doesn't fill up as much as the other one does, or the other one, or any other one that I have worked on. Normally, our primer valve just fills right up after hitting it several times. Yeah, okay, but since this is brand new, we're not going to question it. We're just going to put it back into the machine when we get our ignition coil, which should be delivered by Amazon any minute now. And then we put this all together. Alright, the moment we've been waiting for. Got a brand spanking new ignition coil. And it's hooked up. And so we got the old spark plug put into the new boot. And what we're going to do is we're going to spin it with the drill. And we're going to look at this very carefully to see if there's any spark. So, here we go. Okay, so that confirms it, everybody. Got spark in the spark plug, so everything can now be put together. And I did some of that, and we're gonna use the new carburetor and not the old one. And this, yeah, next should be starting. Okay, so we got this completely together now. Oh, this part here was starting to worry me because I thought maybe I needed an entire contraption for the on-off switch, but that is an on-off switch. There's a regular switch that is right inside the handle, and the way that you access it is a little lever, which is right there, and it turns it off. Okay, and I think if I was to use a screwdriver, I could probably turn it off just by turning it off. We'll find out if that works. But when you look at the throttle springs back like it's supposed to. It's a brand spanking new carburetor. Now the choke mechanism, this one here is choke, this one here is half choke, and this one here is run. Now when you put it in choke and you hit the trigger, it goes back. See that? Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to put it on choke. Now we're going to hit the primer bulb a million times until this is full. I just put fresh gas in this, 50 to 1. And what do you know? It's filling up nicely. That is good. There are 0 leaks in this gas system, so therefore there will be no smell of gas. There will be no worry of ignition. I should have showed you guys the oil and the gas that I used. You know what? Here, let me get the oil. Okay, so this is the oil that I used when I mixed it with 50 to 1 premium gas. Do not use regular on a still. It even says so in the owner's manual, only use premium 90 or above. And this is the oil that I use. So when you look at the primer bulb, it looks clear, but it's not, just because this is somewhat clearish yellow, okay? So we got a brand spanking new string on here. Look at that. So what we're going to do is we're going to put it down. We're going to use the starting procedures, which is pull, pull, pull. We're going to listen to the engine. The engine is going to go, and then we're going to put it, on half choke, and then we're going to run it. Okay? Alright, so as you can see, this ran perfectly. The only problem is there needs to be a lever that fits right there just to turn that on and off. Other than that, we also need this air filter and cover for this to, breathe properly without getting outside gunk into it. But other than that, this is a perfect machine. So hold on. I hope you enjoyed working on this project with me or watching me work on this project. It was pretty awesome. This is like, I can't even remember. I think this is my third blower that I worked on as far as handheld is concerned. But yeah, I charged $50 Canadian to do something like this. Today's date is now, what is the date today? I don't know, March the 2nd, I think. Anyways, my name is Sean Carlson, Blackjack 98 Enterprises. Hope you have a good one.